Hi, we are Chris and Shelby with Crown Intent Show.
At Crown Intent, we believe in living and loving intentionally.
Absolutely.
So last week, we started this off and we explained what we mean by living intentionally and loving intentionally, and why that's important. Just so everybody would know, what are you looking for? What are you trying to do? So take a look at that if you're wanting to know.
You haven't seen it yet?
Yeah, what does that mean? Take a look at that video, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this week, let's start by asking, how's the week?
Well, busy week for sure.
Very, very busy week.
Just having the first recording come out.
Yeah.
And learning all that there
Everything
is
that has
to
to do
learn.
with
And try to keep up with 3 kids.
Yeah.
So
Busy.
it's been busy.
We kind of
but
said
it's
that
been
last time. It's just been a very busy season for us, and it's been awesome.
Yeah.
Just learning and.
Yeah. What's up with you? Like, what do you think the week's
Well,
been?
again, it's been extremely busy. Just kind of like you said, learning things and kind of trying to figure out the flow.
Yeah.
You know, we talked a little bit about you being the planner, and now I'm kind of the one that plans everything. And just kind of with everything that's kind of changed and shifted for us, that just kind of having to get into a flow, kind of get into a schedule, and kind of see what the realness of life is actually being on that schedule, and kind of. So.
Don't you think the fun thing is though, like we're getting to create that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Rather than someone tell us what that is.
Yep. Yeah.
I think that's been fun.
That, and then also the kids loving being around, and just. I mean, I'm gonna kind of jog off to this over here, but just the other day, whenever we were talking, and somebody asked a question in front of us about me being around more often, and just the response that the kids gave.
They were pumped.
Like
teenage kids that were pumped.
Yes.
That Dad got to be around a little
something
bit
else
more.
that we said in the first episode was just being around, and like they just they love to be around us. We love being around them. They love being around us, and it just
it meant a lot. It did.
So.
It did, and it was not like we didn't coax that out.
No,
it just
not at
was.
all.
A friend was asking us about it, and so it was pretty cool for them to hear. So they all do have our heart we're wrapped around their finger. So today we want to talk about some habits. Like, how do you know what kind of habits do you want to cultivate in your relationship? Like, how do you set those up? And like, where do you get them from? So that's kind of what we're going today.
So based off of kind of last week, being proactive, we kind of talked a little bit about, but being proactive and setting up pretty much boundaries, guidelines, to kind of get that focal point that we want out there. To get to that. Right. Finish the line or finish across the line, in a good fashion. So,
yeah. And don't you feel like a lot of times people are in marriage reactive? You wait until there's problems,
and then you figure out what you got to do to make it right or to get better. Yes, absolutely. And so, where there is a position or a place for professional counseling, I don't want to diminish that in any way. What if we don't have to even get to that position? What do we do to maybe avoid even going to that? And so, just kind of putting things in play ahead of time, being more proactive than reactive.
Right. Yeah, so one of the things that we talked about was books. Like, what were the books that we read? I'm a big time reader. You're more of an audio book reader.
Yes. However, I've gotten more into
that is true.
More into the habit of reading, actually, myself.
That is true. But we do like a good book. And although we like even any of the books we've read, we haven't done the things in it word for word. But we've just kind of gathered things from different places that works for us. So,
so how do we want to start this?
So top 3 books. I mean, we've read
many,
quite a few, but top 3 books that we felt were good resources for us. So what is
Okay,
the
so
first one?
maybe the first one was, again, the most important year in a man's life.
Yeah.
And the flip-flop, the most important year in a woman's life.
For sure.
That was one that was a key component in the startup of marriage for us. Yeah, it just sits out there.
And I think somebody gave it to us for our wedding gift.
And what have we done?
Thank you.
Yeah.
We don't know.
We don't remember who, but thank you.
We appreciated it.
We appreciated it. That's horrible. But,
yeah. But the book is like on one side you read it's the like man's perspective of that first year, and then on the other side is the woman's perspective, and you kind of meet in the middle. That's
it's kind of like a little bit of a discipleship style reading and interacting and that kind of thing. So what's one big thing that we know that came out of that specific book that we just kind of kept?
So I think one of the big things that like really stood out to me was the fact that we each were shaped by how we were brought up, and we bring that into our relationship. And so we have like a normal that we know, and so we think, of course, our spouse has that same normal,
and that is not the case.
Because it's normal.
Because I'm definitely not normal.
That's true. That's true.
You don't have to agree.
Sorry.
But seriously, like we come in with our own, I would say, our worldview in marriage, and we come together. And so, so that was actually a massive thing for us to learn. Do we have any example, maybe, that out of that specific book, that maybe that specific subject, where we came together and we're just kind of...
I think that communication, and you say it all the time, because he thinks that this part of the book was so funny.
It is hilarious.
But it talks about not bringing up like family or like labeling people. So you're not like accusing, like when there's any sort of conflict or you're trying to work something out.
Through it,
When you come to that, you don't want to come to the person accusing, and so do you want to tell them you're lying, like you always say.
So I don't know why it's always stuck out, but from that book, there's a statement or a comment made in there about not bringing in like your German knobby nose, and I always say, hey, you don't bring that German knobby nose in here, and it's just I laugh about it.
Partially funny because my family is German. So he always laughs. And
it stuck with me, I'll just say it that way.
Yeah, but the good part about it is, like, even in a moment of conflict, sometimes he'll bring that out and it, like, brings it down. So
it makes us laugh.
It does.
Humor.
It does. That's good.
So
so then that's book number 1 that we're going to talk about. Book number 2, what do you feel like?
So it was a book. We read the book, but it was a conference.
Yeah, they kind of went together.
That we went to. So I'm talking to you, but we went to this conference, and the book was Love and Respect, and so that book, which again had conferences, we got to go to an actual local conference in our city here, and that specific book spoke specifically about both the love side and the respect side of marriage, and how God intended for those things to flow together. And so go ahead.
Big time talked about how like the woman's primary need in marriage is to be loved, and the man's primary need is to be respected. And I know, like, when I've shared that with people, you can kind of see it like inside of them, like, I want to be respected, or I need to feel love. And they're not saying you don't need that, but it's just talking about that primary
the baseline, the need.
And so that, I think, has stuck with me throughout our whole relationship.
Specifically out of that book, part of the book, or a portion of the book, is the idea of what we call the no spiral, or the downward spiral.
The crazy cycle.
Cycle. That's what it is.
Yeah.
And so it kind of goes a little deep into that about how when you say no to something, which in the case of us, it would be, I would say no to showing my wife love, and then she would then react with a sign of not respecting me. And so what happens is it just continues to just build on top of, and then you find yourself kind of in a situation where you just don't know how you got there. I mean,
and you're just trying, it's like you're trying to just get at each other, and it's because of this crazy cycle that you've gotten on. And I think that's been a really big for us to just like recognize, are we in that place? And then even prevent. We talked about being proactive at the beginning, preventing getting there. So being on that yes cycle. So like, can I in this moment say yes? Can I choose to serve and respect or love, vice versa? And instead be on the yes cycle instead of the crazy no cycle. So that was.
We're on the yes cycle.
Yes, that is our attempt. That mostly to be on the yes cycle.
Perfect. So we've been on a no cycle before. So okay. So what would you say? I guess today. So we're going to fast forward a little bit because we've had children and we've read parenting books then, and so there's been a lot of that in the time between that book and that conference that we went to, and some other things that we've done. But then now we've kind of gotten to where we have older children, and so we've recently come across a new book that has really, really impacted the way we think about marriage, the way that we feel like God has intended marriage to be. What book?
Okay, so the newest book that we're on is called The 7 Sacred Pathways to Intimacy. Yeah. And I love the book. Well, let's tell what the 7 different pathways are. Okay, so there's 7 of them, and they are the spiritual, emotional, intellectual, sensual, sexual. Help me out here.
Shoot, you would ask me that one. Leadership.
Leadership. Okay.
And then S. No.
I don't know. 7. What's number 7? We obviously need to finish. It's financial.
There it is. I was like, what is it? Wow.
Yes.
Like you missed one.
I know. So those are the 7, and we're working through this book. But the awesome part about it is, oftentimes I think in marriage it's easy to identify that you should be emotionally connected, and that's a way to bring yourselves together. And spiritually, we from the get-go felt that we were on that same pathway spiritually. But to identify the other pathways and how those bring you together, was there one that surprised you, or you thought, I didn't think about that?
Well, honestly, I would say because of this season we're in, the leadership.
Okay.
The leadership path.
Okay.
For me, I know, like you're an independent individual, I'm independent, but really just us actually, I call it banking off of each other in that and seeing how it reflects in our relationship with God and how it edifies you and edifies myself in our marriage to be
like
together.
To rule and reign. Like that's a big concept.
Exactly.
Is to rule and reign in every aspect of life. But leadership, like what actions are we going to take in our life to business-wise and job-wise.
Going into the job, into the business, and how we do that.
Right.
To rule and reign in that section.
Okay. And for me, I think connecting on like the sensual pathway, because it's in the book, they separate the sexual and the sensual. And so to identify that as a pathway and a connection, like, I think that just meant so much to me, because it was like, it matters a lot in the middle of the day. Like, do you hold hands? Or, just kind of touch one another, like, reach out and touch their shoulder or whatever. It just means a lot. And it may mean more to some than others. I don't know. But I feel like oftentimes those things are identified together.
Not just to go straight to the other side of the sexual side of it.
Right. Yeah. And so to separate them and realize, like, some people really need that part. of the connection with one another.
I mean, the book actually kind of goes a little deeper into some of that. It gets raw, which is good.
Yeah.
I mean, but how would you say, is that something that I've worked better at since we've gone through a part of that? I mean, we're still a work in progress, so we got to make sure we say that. We're not, we don't have this all figured out, but would you say that you've noticed those things? And I'm not, initially it was me having to take initiative to think about that and not going to another level. But what is your answer for that?
Well, I think what's been really cool is it opens up conversation to, well, number one, for you to identify, like, oh, that's something, like I'm able to put words to my need, like, you know, financial for one. We've always kind of come together, done budget, but, you know, we might not understand why each person works the way they do. And so that I think has been helpful to just put words to it.
Yeah.
But yes, I think both of us have, as we've identified the different pathways, we've been able to meet each other's needs there. And definitely, I think, you know, we're on the yes cycle. We learned that a long time ago.
We're keeping that one in our back pocket.
So
that's awesome.
So yeah, working towards those things has been really good. So anything else that stuck out to you so far in the pathways? No.
No. Oh, come on. No. Oh, come on.
Well, so one of the other big takeaways for me is where the writers, which it's a couple, it's Benji and Alana Alexander, and she talks about the amygdala takeover.
Yeah.
And so she talks about like not being able to answer his questions at some time, and she didn't know why, but she just like
it was like
drew a blank. Yeah, like she was shut down.
Yeah.
And she talks about it being that the amygdala takeover and how when that happens, like it can happen from a large amount of stress. It can happen from having a lot of things go on at the same time, and how like you just kind of are shut down. And so recognizing in that moment that it's not that you don't want to have the conversation, it's not that you don't want to work out the issue or whatever it is, it's just that your brain is literally shut down.
Can't go there.
At that moment. Yeah. And I've noticed that in myself at times, which has been good to kind of step back and just say like, I'm not in a good place to answer this or to make this decision. So that's been really helpful.
On the opposite side of that, I've actually realized, or just in communication, like you need some space or some time to figure out your answer, and so that's good because I am also on the other side of that learned how not to press or to just shut off myself, and so just kind of keeping in perspective that it's giving the benefit of the doubt. Yeah. So it just opens up conversation. It really does.
Yeah. So those are really the 3 books that we have gone through. So we're going to actually link these into the description of this video because you can get them on Amazon, just online. So if you're interested in any of those, we highly recommend them.
Absolutely.
They're all 3 really, really
good resources to have. There's others, but these are some major ones that really impacted us. So
yeah, they've been good. They've been good. Okay, so make sure to follow us on your favorite streaming platform, whatever that is, because we'll be back again next week.
Next week.
Yep.
So, guys, have a good week.
Bye.
Bye.